Hello, I'm Patrick. Welcome to the Nature's Newsroom. I'm here with Marc Engel, Chief Supply Chain Officer from Unilever. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm with Diane Holdorf, Executive Vice President of the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, but you're also the co-chair of the Global Comms Alliance.
Yes.
So thank you both for being here. Diane, let me start with you. This is the first COP where nature's on the agenda. So there's been for quite a while a clear separation of climate and nature. Is that helpful at all?
It's imperative. We cannot get to net zero without achieving Nature+Positive. Nature represents a third of the solutions to help us get to 1.5 and beyond. It creates huge risk for loss of nature contributing to the climate emergency. We've got to take action on nature at the same time. So it's really great to see the agenda so interlinked this year at COP26.
Do you feel there's momentum behind nature at COP26 in the past few days?
You said it, more than ever before. And tomorrow we've got a whole day dedicated to nature. But what I've been really excited about is that it isn't all just been held until the conversation tomorrow. Nature has been threaded throughout the entire week so far. Many of the commitments that we've already seen from governments and from business and the finance sectors are directly related to nature-based solutions and how we need to leverage it as the opportunity for climate.
Diane, let's pivot to the private sector. It's clearly a sector that has a big role to play. Can you give us a sense, and the viewers, what are the sectors that have the biggest footprint on nature?
So every business has a footprint that is affecting nature and has opportunity within it. The biggest sectors, however, are agriculture, the built environment, and the energy sector. Those three have by far the greatest impacts, but equally some of the most significant opportunities to invest in those nature-based solutions, to create business opportunities and to really drive some of the transformational change that we need.
It's a big job.
It's a big job.
And here's a big man thinking about that every day. Unilever made on Monday a $1 billion commitment, a fund, climate and nature.
Yeah.
You already are part of the 1.5 supply chain leaders group.
Yeah.
So you set by 2039 a net zero goal. That's 11 years earlier than the Paris Agreement. How do we get this done? Just what Diane said. Could you give us a sense what the collective action that's needed to get this done?
Yeah, well, we've been on this journey for a long time. We, in our own operations, we've already reduced the carbon footprint by 74% since 2008, which is our scope 1 and 2. But then, of course, you realize that that's only 10% of your total direct emissions, because the biggest part is in agriculture with your suppliers or packaging or chemicals, etc. And so we're one of those big companies that Diana is talking about that has a large agricultural footprint. I think we have a footprint of almost 4 million hectares, which is half of the UK. And so it makes sense for us also to put effort back into restoration of nature, which is why we launched the Climate and Nature Fund, which is a fund that we are funding from our brand advertising money, 100 year every year. And we do that because we want to make this absolutely central to the brand. It's money that otherwise would have gone on television or digital advertising. And we want specific projects that are linked to the brand and linked to the restoration of nature, because nature has a big role to play. Diana was saying it, 30% of the carbon sink could come from Mother Nature, but it only receives 3% of all the finance in net zero. And so obviously nature needs more finance, and that's what we're doing, besides the normal decarbonization of our end-to-end supply chain.
There's a lot of protests out there. People are angry. They're taking some of the commitments that are coming out as greenwashing. If you're doing what you're doing, what you just announced, what would you answer to those accusations? It's just greenwashing. You avoid taking on the tough challenges.
Yeah, well, there is a real risk of greenwashing, and I don't want to dispel that myth. And net zero targets are a table stake now. Everybody has a net zero target by X. But if you're skeptical, then I would say ask 3 follow-up questions. How big is the net of your total footprint? If it's 100%, it's probably closer to greenwashing than when it's 5%. what is the quality of the net that you're going to be offsetting? Because there's a lot of greenwashing or ambition in that. So what is the quality of the offsets that you're going to generate or going to buy? And the third one is, how big is your roadmap and how much are you going to decarbonize before 2030? Because we need decarbonization in this decade. And I think if you ask those three questions as a follow-up question to have you got a net zero target, I think you will get a good feel for what is good and what is bad and what is ugly.
It's a big job. You're talking about fundamentally transforming a massive supply chain for Unilever. What's the help you need? I mean, there's a collective agenda here. What would help you to get your job done quicker?
Yeah, well, the first job that I, in my role, have to do is to convince the supplier base, 56,000 that we're working with, to do the same. So we've launched something called the Unilever Climate Promise, which is asking our suppliers sign up to a science-based target, publish it, and share the carbon data with Unilever. That's one big thing. And the next big thing is regulation. You know, the right regulation and the removal of the wrong subsidies, the environmental and socially harmful subsidies, and putting taxation and subsidies in the right place does two things for business. A, it generates a level playing field, which is extremely important. And second, it drives innovation. And this is what the private sector is good at, is driving innovation. So if we could get that from governments and engage our supply base and make sure that we get momentum behind the whole journey, I think then we will get it done.
Diane, you're looking across sectors, beyond the sector that Unilever is in. What are you picking up on that agenda Marc just told us about?
What Marc is talking about here is really ways of companies driving collective action through their supply chains. And that's what has to happen when you set the level of ambition high, like Unilever and other companies are doing. They start to show their suppliers and other business what's possible, and that helps to accelerate the transformation. But we've got to bring more people along faster. And so that's some of the work that we're doing at WBCSD with other partners, is bringing that type of ambition to collective action, lifting those examples into the types of frameworks and roadmaps that companies that who maybe don't have the same level of resource and leadership capacity that Unilever has, to help them pick up, plug, and move forward faster.
Marc, just one final question. So aside of climate and nature, I mean, you just talked about 56, is that right? Thousands of suppliers. Yeah. There's a lot of people out there. And we're trying to do this transition in a way that is fair. Can you just share with me how you are thinking about that and ensuring a fair transition?
Yeah. Well, I think at the end of the day, it's all making sure that you understand all the social and environmental aspects of what you do, and that there's no unintended consequences for anybody that is not on board. And so, you know, as I said, the quality of the net, particularly, there's a lot of emotion around voluntary carbon markets. We believe there's absolutely room for voluntary carbon markets, and it can lead to more ambition and more additionality, but it has to be done in the right way. And so, you know, of course, I need to do my job with the suppliers, which you can rely on me to do that. But one of the hopes that I have is that we're getting some agreed frameworks around what these voluntary carbon markets or mandatory carbon markets through Article 6 look like. If I have three hopes for the COP, one is that these NDCs are going to be ambitious enough, because at the moment it's still 15% up by 2030 and they need to be 50% down. B is more finance in nature, and C is getting somehow standards around carbon markets, because I think carbon markets are absolutely part of the solution, but they have to be done in an environmentally and a socially inclusive way.
Marc, thank you very much. Diane, thank you very much. It's great to have you both here at the Nature Newsroom.
Thanks,
thank you very much.
And good luck with the rest of the COP26.
Thanks.
Thank you.